All right, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick YouTube video for anybody who wasn't able to meet on our morning or afternoon video conferences. So all I'm going to do is very briefly go through the DBQ for tomorrow, protocol, all that good stuff, and just give you a brief review on the rubric since it's been a little while since we wrote one of these. All right, so let's do it. So, as I mentioned and posted, the DBQ topic is foreign policy or Cold War foreign policy for Truman and Eisenhower. So it's chapter 35 and 36, the foreign policy stuff primarily. And then obviously domestic things related to foreign policy. So, not like marketing and stuff like that we looked at, but the Red Scare is related to it. So you want to make sure that you at least brush up on those things. Remember with the Cold War with Truman, that starts at the Yalta conference. So Yalta and Potsdam are fair game. Remember, even though World War II was still going on, those conferences are seen as the start of the Cold War. And for Eisenhower, obviously, you cut at 1960. So 1945 to 1960. So on Friday at 8 a.m. on the dot, I'm going to post the DBQ. Okay. It's going to make a copy of the DBQ for you. You're going to get the question, all the documents, a rubric, and a space to write. It's very important that you write on the copy of the assignment that I produce for you, okay? You can't make a separate doc. You must write on the document that is provided in Google Class. If you want to print out the docs, like print the whole thing out so that you have them in front of you so you don't have to scroll, that's totally okay. You just need to make sure that you are typing it and writing it inside the doc. And then you should be good, okay? You're going to have an hour and 15 minutes to work on it. And you'll see that at the top of where you're going to write, I'm going to have a little thing that says time. And you just need to enter the time that you started it. It's time stamped, so I can check anyway. But if you wouldn't mind just putting your start time, I'd appreciate it because it'll help make it a little faster for me. And that's that. So we should be good there. The DBQ itself, if we look at the rubric on the left-hand side of the screen, I know you've seen this before, but I just wanted to briefly talk about it again. So the thesis statement, remember, you need to answer both parts. Most thesis statements are going to respond to like two-part questions. You know that most of the essays we've had are two-part questions. And then you also want to make sure that you're very specific in your response. If you recall, when you wrote the LEQ for the Great Depression, I said that the main thing people did was, while they did note that the relationship between people and their government improved during the New Deal with FDR, most people didn't explain why by mentioning like relief, reform, and recovery, or the idea that the government played a much larger role in people's lives. So you need to make sure that you explain a little bit of your point, right? And the last thing with the thesis, remember, it's not one sentence. You can break it up. You can think of the whole intro paragraph as a thesis paragraph. For contextualization, when we say describe a broader historical context relevant to the prompt, you know that we're talking about rooting the prompt in the history. So obviously we're looking at Truman and Eisenhower in the Cold War. So you want to make sure that throughout your paper, it is very clear that you understand the events of the time period. So, what's going on in the world, what's going on the home front. If you're talking about one very narrow event, that's fine, but you want to make sure that you also explain kind of how that fits in with the bigger picture. For evidence, you know that obviously 1 point is 3 documents, 2 points is 6 documents. That's obviously hard to do, but that's what you want to shoot for. And remember, with those 6 documents, you need to not just quote them, right? You need to explain them. So if you got a document from like George Kennan, you couldn't just quote it like the long telegram. You'd want to talk about its significance or what it was in response to. You need to make sure that the point of the document is clear, that you're not just taking lines. For evidence beyond the documents, these are like key terms, key people, key events. I always ask you guys to do those vocab terms with this specific thing in mind. So, real specific people, things, terms that fit the question. For analysis, that where it says for the top point, 3 documents explain how or why the point of view is relevant. So, like, for example, if you got a piece of propaganda, you'd want to note the bias of the propaganda. You'd want to note what it's arguing for. To use the long telegram example again, George Kennan's a real person and significant within the Truman administration. He's not just some guy on the street. So when we say, like, view, purpose, historical situation, like, that's the type of thing you bring up, is, like, depending on who wrote it, it might be more or less important. And then the last one, the complex understanding. This is a holistic point. You can't get this with one sentence. Another way of looking at that last point is just, this is where we look at the overall quality of your analysis. Are you backing up your claims with factual support? Are you consistently linking back to the thesis? You see those bullet points, the 5 bullet points, like similarities and differences, cause and effect. These are all things we've talked about in class. But the point is, they all link in with the idea that your analysis looks at the entire question and the entire time period and doesn't leave out major details that would alter your argument, right? So that's all that's getting at. That's just like the overall kind of quality of your argument. If you have questions, shoot me an email, and I will make sure that I check it a few times throughout the afternoon and evening so that you'll get a response before tomorrow morning. Hopefully, most of you were able to get to one of the Google Meets. But like I said, if not, that's why I wanted to do this. And otherwise, we should be good to go. Okay. On the offhand chance you have some sort of difficulty tomorrow morning, you need to email me immediately. All right. Obviously, it is done at home. That's why I'm giving you a 4-hour window. All right. But this is still, an essay. It's the same way DBQ would be in school. So you need to make sure that you're doing it. Don't just say, "Oh, I have a technical difficulty," and not submit it, and then don't talk to me. All right, that's going to be a problem. So that's that. Okay. But I think you'll be fine. I think you will see when you see the question tomorrow that it is one that you probably could anticipate, and that's that. I will make sure during that entire 4-hour window I am online as well. So if something happens during it, you can always contact me. You can ask me questions. You can email me. Okay. I will talk to you all soon.